When Grandpa died and left the house to me, everyone said it was a liability, but I saw it as a refuge. I love the quiet and the way the old floorboards creaked, and the way the wind whistled through the eaves when a storm hit. Tonight, though, the wind didn't just whistle, it roared. The old house groaned under the onslaught of the storm. I like to think the house and I had something in common. We both looked a little fragile, but we'd weathered worse storms before. Rain pounded the side of the house, driven by gusts so fierce that it felt like the old stone walls were under siege. I flicked off the antique lamp in the living room, plunging the space into near darkness, lit only by the flashes of lightning. It was like a scene from a Gothic novel. All I needed was a flickering candelabra and a shadowy figure lurking in the corner. My stomach twisted with a mix of exhilaration and fear. "A good storm helps you clear your head," Grandpa used to say. Tonight, his words rang hollow. There was no peace to be found in this chaos, and another boom of thunder, closer than the last, sent a jolt of panic through me. I knew it was ridiculous. The house had stood for decades. It wouldn't fall apart in one night. But a nagging voice whispered in the back of my mind, reminding me I was alone out here, miles from the nearest neighbor. To distract myself, I went to the kitchen window. The lawn was a churning mass of wind-whipped grass, and I could just see the hulking shadows of the trees at the edge of the property swaying back and forth. In the distance, a flash of lightning illuminated the hills, their silhouettes sharp and menacing against the storm-tossed sky. And then I noticed it. A flicker of movement outside. At first I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me in the storm, but as I strained them, I saw a figure standing near the tree line. It was too far away to make out details, but the way it stood there, unmoving, sent chills down my spine. Another blast of lightning, and it was gone. "Just the wind," I muttered to myself, my voice sounding thin and weak in the empty house. But the feeling of being watched lingered. I kept replaying the image in my mind, the lone figure, bathed in the chilling blue light of the storm, rooted to the spot like a scarecrow in a gale. I turned away from the window, but I couldn't shake the image. My grandfather always had the news on, muttering about how the world got crazier every day. I used to think it was just an old man's grumbling, but now I started to wonder. The storm raged on for what felt like hours. Even when the thunder and rain calmed down a bit, the wind kept howling. The windows rattled in their frames, the sound like thin fingers scratching to get inside. Finally, unable to bear the suspense any longer, I grabbed a flashlight and the heaviest kitchen knife I could find. I didn't know what I was expecting, maybe just to put my mind at rest, but the knife felt reassuringly solid in my hand. I crept to the front door, my heart pounding a frantic tattoo against my ribs. With every creak of the floorboards, my fear spiked. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. It was quiet, just the insistent groan of the house and the low rumble of distant thunder. Steeling myself, I unbolted the door. It swung open with a gust of cold, damp air, sending shivers rippling through me. I shone the flashlight into the yard. Empty. Nothing to see except the rain-lashed grass and the shadows of branches weaving in a macabre dance in the weak light. I walked cautiously out onto the porch. Even as I told myself I was being foolish, my grip on the knife tightened. I swept the beam of the flashlight back and forth, searching the tree line. Still nothing. Then, just as I started to relax, the rain suddenly stopped. The silence was absolute, and something about it pricked at my senses. I scanned the darkness again as unease settled over me. The back of my neck prickled uncomfortably. I didn't move, barely dared to breathe, and, faint but unmistakable, I heard it. It was a footstep. Closer now, a wave of terror washed over me. I whirled around, the flashlight wobbling crazily in my shaking hand, but once again, there was no one there, just the silent, storm-soaked night. I bolted back inside, slamming the door shut, my whole body trembling. As the night wore on, the storm finally petered out, but even the silence felt ominous now, and sleep seemed a distant dream. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky, casting long shadows through the house, I knew that whatever happened out there, real or imagined, had changed something within me. The sanctuary of the old house didn't feel so safe anymore. Let me introduce myself. I'm Sarah, and for the past year I've lived in a small cozy cabin nestled in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. It's my escape from the city, a little slice of wooded tranquility. Before tonight, I never questioned my decision to live here, but now, as I sit hunched in my attic, bathed only in the eerie glow of my laptop screen and the strobing flashes of the thunderstorm outside, I'm not so sure. Rain had been on the forecast, but nothing like this. The storm rolled in fast, catching me off guard as I was settling in for the night. Rain lashed at the windows, and the wind roared around the eaves in a way that sent shivers down my spine. At first I found it almost comforting. Even the loudest boom of thunder couldn't drown out the usual night sounds of crickets and owls. But as the storm intensified, the normal woodland soundtrack was eclipsed. The wind was no longer just howling, it was screaming. It was like a chorus of lost souls, and beneath that, I started to hear something else. It was faint at first, almost lost in the storm's cacophony. I convinced myself it was just debris scraping against the roof, but it was rhythmic, strangely deliberate, and it seemed to be getting louder. The scratching would stop for a few minutes and then start again, and each time my stomach knotted tighter. I grabbed a flashlight, debating whether it was wiser to ignore it or investigate, but curiosity tinged with a healthy dose of fear won out. Attic it was. With shaking knees, I climbed the ladder into the dusty space. It was cramped and full of shadows, my flashlight beam sweeping the darkness like a weak sword against some unknown danger. There! The noise seemed to be coming from above the bedroom. A squirrel must have found its way in, I told myself. But then the thumping sounded again, so heavy it felt like a footstep. My breathing hitched. Squirrels didn't weigh that much, and they definitely couldn't walk. I crept closer, the scratching now directly above me. Was there an access panel to the roof that I didn't know about? The thought of finding out sent a wave of nausea through me. I'd heard horror stories about people discovering things living in their walls, but up here? It seemed absurd, impossible. Then another sound. Not the scratching or thumping, this one was high-pitched, almost like a whine. It was coming from the same spot. Suddenly, a flash of lightning crackled across the sky, and for one terrifying split second, I saw a pair of small, glowing eyes staring out of a hole just inches from my face. I don't remember much after that, just my own shriek echoing, the scrambling retreat down the ladder, the panicked fumbling for the light switch. When I finally forced myself to look up at the attic hatch, it was closed. The rest of the night is a blur. I huddled under the covers in my bedroom, flashlight clutched close, the storm and those terrible noises from the attic continuing unabated. As the first fingers of dawn reached through the storm clouds, the sounds finally ceased. Exhausted, but desperate for answers, I gathered my courage and ventured back up with the daylight. The hole was still there, just enough for a small animal to squeeze through. Squirrel droppings littered the floor, so that explained some of the noise. But what about the rest? The eyes, the weight, that chilling cry? Was something else up there with them? A predator? I'm sealing off the hole now, hoping with every nail hammered that I won't discover anything else disturbing. But I know tonight, when the darkness falls, I won't sleep. Instead, I'll lie here, listening for the telltale scratching to start again, and I'll wonder if my solitude isn't as peaceful as I once thought. I've always hated thunderstorms. The way the air thickens, that sickly yellow tinge to the sky, it sends shivers down my spine. Some people like the thrill of it, but me? I'd rather be curled up at home under a mountain of blankets. Guess that's why fate decided to play a cruel joke on me and my best friend Ben. It was just a normal Tuesday afternoon. School had just let out, and we were taking our usual shortcut home, a winding dirt path that cut through the woods. Ben was yammering on about the new video game he got, but my mind was on the dark clouds gathering overhead. "Dude, hurry up, we're gonna get drenched," I grumbled, picking up my pace. We were about halfway through the woods when the first rumble of thunder echoed across the sky. To that, Ben just laughed. "Chicken, betcha I can still beat you home." And just like that, he was off, his backpack bouncing as he sprinted ahead. I sighed, chasing after him. The trees were already starting to sway, and the first fat drops of rain plinked against the leaves. It was getting dark, way too fast. Every flash of lightning illuminated the forest in a harsh white light, making the tree trunks look like skeletal arms reaching out for us. It wasn't just the storm that was making me uneasy now. This place, normally so familiar, had become alien. It had become menacing in the gathering gloom. "Hey, wait up," I called out, my voice strained. Ben was just a blur ahead of me now, disappearing around a bend in the path. This was a dumb idea. As if in response, a deafening crack of thunder split the sky, and the rain came crashing down in torrents. In seconds I was soaked to the skin, the water streaming down my face and blurring my vision. I stumbled blindly onwards, cursing my stupidity and trying not to imagine what creepy crawlies might be hiding in these woods. And then I saw it. Up ahead, a flicker of movement. Ben? He must have stopped and was waiting for me. I let out a sigh of relief and pushed myself harder. But as I got closer, something seemed off. The figure was too tall, too broad to be Ben. It stood unmoving in the middle of the path, silhouetted against another blinding flash of lightning. And then I saw the outfit. It was a clown. A ragged, filthy clown costume gleaming wetly in the rain. The face was painted in a grotesque leer, the red smile stretched impossibly wide. A chill shot through me that had nothing to do with the rain. What the hell was this? Some sick Halloween prank? A low chuckle reached my ears, carried over the roar of the storm. The figure took a small step forward, and that's when I saw the glint of something in its hand. A knife. My scream got lost in the thunder. I turned and ran, the rain and tears mixing on my face. There was no sign of Ben. Panic surged through me, propelling my legs faster. Stumbling, grasping for breath, I burst out of the tree line and into the clearing that led to our neighborhood. Thank God the clown didn't follow. Still, I didn't stop until I collapsed on my front porch, soaked and shaking. I never saw that clown again, and neither did Ben. We also never told anyone. Deep down, I'm not even sure if it was real, or some kind of nightmare brought on by the storm. But sometimes, when dark clouds loom overhead and the first drops of rain fall, I can't shake the feeling of eyes watching me. And then I remember that blood-curdling laugh, the flash of a knife in the hands of a grinning clown.